With Fat Boy, I think it's really important to us to blur those lines of what is a cliche woman's line and a classic men's line. Sometimes with the marketing campaigns of big bouncy blowouts for the women and the moustache wax for the men's, it gets so boring with those marketing campaigns being rolled out over and over again. I want to create something unique that is basically just making products for hair. My name's Tyson Kennedy and I created Fat Boy products.
Fat Boy originally came from my friends in New Zealand who used to call me Fat Boy growing up because I was a very, very skinny young man and they were all smartasses and decided to be very funny to ironically call me Fat Boy. Music and hair was always around me as a teenager. I had some great friends who were hairdressers and my father was a great jazz piano player, and so I always was in bands, but I always did hair as well. So I left school at 15 to do an apprenticeship with a really great salon in New Zealand. And at the same time, started a band with some friends called Stereogram, which we ended up having a couple of hits in New Zealand and ended up getting signed to Capitol Records. Yeah, so that's how we first got to America, me and Tim and Brad and all the guys. So when we got over to LA, we were pretty optimistic about everything. We just got signed to Capitol Records and we were feeling on top of the world.
Their new CD is right here. It's called Schmack with the song Walkie Talkie Man. Here is Stereogram.
We ended up getting put up for the iPod ad, the second generation iPod.
1, 2, 3, 4.
From there, it was great. It was all around the world, and we had an awesome run.
We were nominated for a Grammy, 4 MTV Awards,
Got top 20 in UK and number 1 in Japan.
all around the same time as the iPod commercial.
Basically, in between the first and second record touring, I decided to move to New York because I met Rodney Cutler.
He owns Cutler salons in New York City, and when I was 20, I was a stylist in New Zealand, and I was lucky enough to be runner-up New Zealand Hairdresser of the Year, which Rodney Cutler was the judge. He talked about me coming over to work in New York. It took about 8 years, but I finally moved there, and that's where I work.
And I built a little studio in the basement of the Soho salon and did all the pre-production for the second record. As we were touring, a lot of the guys were always sweating during the shows. We couldn't find a hair product that would pack enough punch to stay up for the whole show, and it would sweat and burn your eyes. So I decided I would have a crack at making my own hair product for them that wouldn't do that. That was still really had enough boogie and enough guts to get through the whole thing, but was also really creamy and soft to the touch. So I just started cooking up product in my kitchen in the Lower East Side, but it was lots of ingredients and just researching and reading chemistry blogs, and all night I'd just get really drunk and bottle of red wine and listen to Bowie and just cook. It was like a cryptic puzzle that I had to figure out. It took me a while, probably a couple of thousand batches, but eventually I feel like I found the perfect product for my hair, and then other people liked it too. I've got a little test that I use at the salon because I still work at the salon 4 days a week cutting hair. When I'm making a new product, I'll bring it in, and everyone's always very nice to me and says it's great, whether it is or not. If there's a couple of scoops out by the end of the day, I know it's probably pretty shit. If it's all used up and pretty much empty, I know I've got something going on and people are going back to it and like it. My favorite thing is if they're all gone, then I know that that's a sign that I'm onto something, and I've had that with 3 of my products, and they've all been the top sellers. The original one was obviously the putty. When I was making that, I always get flogged as soon as I bring it. I could only make 30 at a time too, so I'd be up all night getting drunk, but making product, and I'd bring it in, and they'd all be gone, so I couldn't even sell them. And the second one was the sea salt pomade, and then ended up going to be our next biggest seller and got loads of kind of beauty awards. And then the latest one was the spray putty. I bring in the little canisters of the aerosol spray putty that I worked with a great manufacturer on, and they would just disappear.
The stage to the salon is really about all the different stages in the life of Fat Boy. Anywhere from the obvious of the rock and roll stage when we're performing, to the backstage at Fashion Week, to the education classes.
And also celebrating hairdressers. I feel like what they do is really creative, and so it's more trying to put them up on a pedestal and do the education and the trade shows. We do these rock and roll hairdressing tours where we tour around the country, do classes, and we put on a big show and do that. So that's another stage. So it's just trying to mix that real creative vibe and touring vibe, of music vibe in with hair. This is like a dream come true, to be able to tour around America, visit hairdressers and teach them how we do hair and learn from them. Just trying to open a creative dialogue with all the crew. It's like there's Vidal Sassoon, there's Paul Mitchell, and there's Fat Boy. All the greats. I think that's good.